Hey, I'm Alex, also known Alex K, because my name nobody can pronounce, Alexandra Kleinichem. So I'm an artist. I do photography, but I also paint, and I currently write a book, and the book will be addressed for teenagers and young adults who suffer from anxiety and depression through art, because that's what I'm really specializing in, and that's what I kind of feel for myself, that creativity, even though you don't need to be an artist in order to be creative, because everybody, in my opinion, is creative. You just need to get it out of you. Being creative means just really to be purely present and to forget everything around you. And it's a way also to express your feelings without the need to talk. And I mean, that is the hardest part. If you go through some struggle, it is hard sometimes to express, or you don't know who you talk to. So, in the way of creating a similar effect is simply to paint. My medium is mixed media art. Um, I'm drawn to painting girls normally, but also animals. And I'm totally drawn to nature. I love mermaids. I connect to the fairies. So I love fairy tales, going back to my childhood and having fun. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm teaching in my book. I'm going through some topics within this book where you start releasing all the pain and the past and any limiting beliefs in a creative way. So it's fun and it's helping you as well. So it's pretty awesome. So, and because I'm almost finished now, so I will announce soon where it's going and when it's going to be published. But yeah, so it kind of made me feel really inspired to come up with this idea of having weekly creativity prompts for you guys, so you can subscribe to my newsletter, or you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, or my blog post, where every Monday I will release a creativity prompt, and it's sometimes something really simple, like just go out in nature and notice any color you've never seen before, take a photo of it and go back to use your art journal and paint something in that color. And if it's just mucking around with throwing color into the book and paint some flowers over it, whatever it is, it's just simple as that. Just follow your guidance and your intuition. So I thought for the beginners it might be really daunting. I mean, I know when I started to paint, I was like, what the heck? I have all this idea what I want to do, but I didn't know how to. So that's kind of what I want to teach you, which is only going to be a part of my book. But for now, I'm thinking of might be more in the future, but in the moment I want to release once a month a prompt, but then also show you how I deal with it and how I actually create some art with it. And it doesn't need to be art. If art is freaking you out, don't worry, it's just about the process rather than the outcome. If the outcome is, no, I have painted stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, it's not really my greatest thing I've done so far, and it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter. It's not to sell art, it's just to have fun, to go through the process. And what I realized for myself, while you use certain colors or patterns or shapes or whatnot in your art journal, it is actually reflecting something within you which needs to be expressed. And you don't even need to worry about what it means, just follow it, because it's a natural process of releasing what needs to be expressed. And it's fun, and that always what matters. Are you ready? Okay, so for this month's creativity prompt, I thought, let's go out in nature. And it doesn't matter where you are. If it's winter and where you live, that's fine. Then go out and play in the snow. Or I'm here from Australia, and the moment we have summer, so then go out and have fun, and where we live, go to a park close by, go to the beach, the ocean, whatever it is, any part of nature, any trees, any flowers, anything really, it does not matter. and just go for a walk and simply just notice the nature around you. And you might want to pick some flowers, or you might want to take a photo of a tree which looks really cool to you, or you see a bird or something. And then get inspired just by simply noticing what's going around in your nature around you. Just see the beauty in it and go back to take your art journal and just go and paint. If you don't have an art journal, you don't know what it is, doesn't matter either. Just take a note. Just a pad of watercolor is great. So what I use a smaller art journal, which I'm going to show you in my video. Or I have bigger art journals, A4, it's in Australia, a letter size in the US. It's for watercolor, because I do use a lot of watercolor, so I want to make sure it's a thick paper which actually absorbs the water and the colors. But you can use anything, really. If you just use markers, whatever you have is good enough. Alrighty, so let's start. Let's see what I discovered on my journey. Look at what happened to me. I was sitting on a rock, got my flowers in my art journal and pencil ready, and I had a little friend joining me. So that inspired me to sketch this little guy. For the ones who don't know, this is a kookaburra living in Australia. We call them the laughing Hans because when they open their mouths, it seriously sounds like they're laughing. Now I'm back on my little art table, and I just grabbed some watercolor and watercolor brush, and then I just paint in my birdie. You will notice later in the end I just paint all over it because I didn't like it. Yeah, that's part of the process, and that probably just inspires you too. It doesn't matter if you don't know what to do. I was sitting in front of it and I didn't know what the heck I was gonna do, and then I just followed kind of my intuition. And in the end, if you didn't like it, you can use some gesso, which is a primer, and paint all over it and do it again. So I'm gonna fast forward the track so you're not getting too bored. Now once I painted in the bird, I choose some collage paper. I here use some Japanese origami paper. You can get it in, now in Australia there's a shop called Daiso, or any other craft supply scrapbook shop where you can get this type of stuff, or you can also use napkins. Just let your creativity flow. So now I'm thinking about what could be the color scheme be, and I choose the flower collage paper because it's in nature, right? And now just randomly rip off some paper and put it on there. And again, I'm gonna fast forward so you're not bored to death. How I'm sticking it onto it is I'm using gel medium. You could use PVA glue, but I haven't really tested it. But if you want to do some great art, and it might in the end after a bit of time peel off, so that's why gel medium is probably the best option, but you can go with the other option too. Now what you can see here now, I've got an old book and I just rip out some old book pages because I'm not gonna read it. It's not really one of my favorite books, so yeah, here we go. That's how you repurpose old books. Now I use crayons. I use the gelato ones, and I was just going crazy in the background. I just picked these colors: blue, dark blue, bright blue, and orange. And then you just apply water to it. So these are water soluble crayons. And just make sure you use one color at a time, otherwise you're gonna mix it. So now once it's dry, you can use gesso over it because you can see it looks very crazy. So to tone it down, I just use some white gesso, which is a primer, and just consider with what we just did as the first layer. And you can go really nuts about it. And now you can see it's already toning down. First I use a brush. I also use then a palette knife to create some texture. And also in between you will notice you always have to let it dry before you apply the next layer. And if you're as impatient as me, you can use a hairdryer. You can see the palette knife I'm using, that's just to go over this to create some texture. You can even write something in it and you would kind of see the whatever you've written in. Very cool. So once it's dry, then you start with a second layer. So I now decided to change my colors because I wasn't really getting it. So now I decided to paint the belly blue. You can see the brush I'm using is a watercolor brush as well. So you just fill the water into that pan, which is pretty cool. I really like these ones. While the bird is drying, I choose to concentrate on the background, and I just added a second layer of bluish colors and a bit of orange. Yeah, now I use the Posca pen in black, which is paint marker. So just make sure you're using it on some gesso applied thing. And I think what I noticed while I was doing it, because I used already the gelatos, it's really hard to paint over the gelatos. So I now decided to paint between where I haven't used the gelato yet, because it's very waxy, so that one wouldn't work, as you can see. And it's not good for the pen either, so make sure you just clean it afterwards. And now I'm just adding some more details to make the bird a bit pop. Now I use some acrylic white paint and a brush and load it up with water and to make it really fluid. And you can see my brush is kind of not really, oh yeah, it was still working there. So now I just paint in the flowers. They are representing the frangipani, which is also a beautiful flower we have here in Australia. I'm using here a Tombow marker, which is also water soluble, so you can paint over it with water to activate the color, or you just leave it as is. Now I'm using my white gel pen, or sometimes also would use the white Posca acrylic pen, and just add some white details to just make it really pop. You can see now I'm adding some more color from my crayons, my gelatos, and just rub it in with a sponge, just to add more color and texture around the bird so it can really kind of jump out of the page. Now I paint in the word love because that's what the kookaburra is reminding me of, just to have fun and laugh and don't take life too serious. Now what I'm doing, I just add some splatter, so I make sure that my acrylic paint is very fluid, so I add lots of water. And I noticed the brush I used before didn't really work, so I used a bit bigger one. And just cover the bird because I didn't want the splatter on the bird, but I wanted to have it surrounding. Yeah, and that's the final product.